Hey everyone, welcome to Logan's Mosh Pit. Glad to have you here. Do me a favor and please subscribe if you haven't already. Let's launch into a new episode of Rock and Read. Today we'll read chapter 23 of It's So Easy and Otherwise by Duff McKagan. Here we go. I decided I needed to start fresh in a new house. I found that I could rent out the place on Laurel Terrace and cover the mortgage that way, and I started looking for a new place, one without the ghost of a marriage past, or maybe just one strategically positioned to make it easier to drink and drive without getting caught. I bought a new place in 1990. It was also in Laurel Canyon, but this time right at the top on Edwin Drive, perched on a cliff overlooking Dead Man's Curve on Mulholland Drive. The place was up the hill from the old mansion built by Houdini. Here on the Hollywood side of the hills, Laurel Canyon was still quite countercultural. It was certainly no Beverly Hills. The name originally came from a studio owned by Stan Laurel, as in Laurel and Hardy, and the road up and over the Hollywood Hills through Laurel Canyon had originally been built to connect to that studio. The first places put up in there were hunting lodges. Later, Houdini and Marilyn Monroe moved in, development mushroomed, and it became a countercultural enclave. By the 1980s, the Houdini mansion had been split up, and a bunch of unreformed hippies lived there in a sort of wizened dorm party milieu. There were secret entrances to the area, and I could avoid main roads and cops. This seemed important because it was getting harder and harder for me now to wait until 1 p.m. to start my daily doses of pain management. Early in the afternoon on the day I moved in, Billy Nasty, one of my partners in crime, and I were hitting golf balls off a tee we had stuck in an artificial fire log. Neither of us knew how to play golf. Both of us were wasted. My dog Chloe looked on with an expression of placid amusement on her face. She never seemed to hold my shortcomings against me. One ball hit the fence, ricocheted off, and crash, shatter, went right back through the massive picture window of my new place. Chloe flinched. I couldn't stop laughing. The movers looked at me like I was an hole. I just didn't care. The house itself had a cool loft space with a spiral staircase. It was fun, light, airy. It provided the inspiration for another new hobby, shooting shotguns off the balcony. Another perk. My go-to dealer, Mike, lived right around the corner, and I could whip down to his place and get in and out via little local roads, or he would deliver the stuff to me. There grew such trust between us that I had a key to his place, and he had a duplicate of my ATM card. I knew he wouldn't steal from me. I was too good a customer. He even helped me paint things in my new house. We had an ingenious system whereby he would write me fake receipts for stereo components or music equipment, or for servicing or installing the phantom electronics. With these receipts, I had some explanation for my accountants for my constant expenditures. Only later did I realize the expenses were always the same amount, $300. I didn't really care whether the accountants caught on or not. I was living a constant lie at this point, and only half-heartedly trying to hide it. I needed multiple dealers in case one of them ran short. A guy named Josh was my other main dealer. He brought supplies to my house himself, or sent his wife, Yvette. I became social friends with Mike, Josh, and Yvette. I knew that they were not really the type of people I should be hanging out with, but I also convinced myself that they had my best interests at heart. It was just another one of the lies I was telling myself. I bought a pot-bellied pig. Again, Chloe took it all in stride. But with me in a haze of partying, the house became quite literally a pigsty. It barely registered with me that there was pig and dog everywhere. In fact, it didn't register at all until one of our accountants came by. Soon after, he recommended a housekeeping company to me, and I thought, oh, is that what you do? House cleaners? Pig notwithstanding, my house quickly became a regular stop for hardcore partiers. The pool behind the house clung to the very top of the ridgeline and offered a spectacular view out over the valley side of the Hollywood Hills. Now that I was finished with the divorce and was partying for nights on end at various LA club nights, that basin of sapphire blue water often ended up as a free-for-all. Somehow, I still lived the life of a Gardner alleyway urchin. Nice. One of the girls I started to hang out with was a newscaster. She had pictures in her office of herself with Ronald Reagan and Jesse Jackson. She repeated a catchphrase to close out all her on-air reports. Years later, she landed a job at a national news network, and every time I heard her finish up with that catchphrase, the image on TV would fade, and I would see her paddling around in my pool. A circuit of clubs dominated Hollywood. Bordello, Scream, Cat House, Vodka, Lingerie, Spice. There was a club to go to each night of the week, except Wednesdays. I have no idea why Wednesday was an off night. I didn't care. Wednesdays, and after hours the rest of the week, the party came to my place. I plucked the stand-up bass to accompany Tony Bennett on stage one night in the VIP section of Spice. I got up and played drums with Pearl Jam the first time they came to LA for a show at the Cat House. There was a lot of alcohol consumed that night, but I think we played a song by the Dead Boys together. I swelled with pride at what was happening up in Seattle. Even if I was a little jealous, it had taken off without me. Although I loved and lived for GNR, with things going off the rails, I began to do the obvious, to torture myself with what-if scenarios. What if I had stayed in Seattle? Would I have been in Soundgarden or Mother Love Bone? Would I be making records for Sub Pop, the hip and suddenly successful label set up by Bruce Pavitt, my old co-worker from the Lake Union Cafe? I could have stayed close to my family and childhood friends, people I missed more and more, as the fabric of Guns N' Roses, my surrogate family unit, began to fray. When Alice in Chains came to LA for their first gig at the Palladium, right as Man in the Box was blowing up as a single, they asked me to come down to the show and play that song with them. Awesome! After their gig that night, I invited the whole band and various hangers-on back up to my house for an after-show party. The party went on for 3 days straight. Other news reached me from Seattle. Unexpected news about Eddie. He had cleaned up for real. Life was funny. From now on, I was hiding from him, and not the other way around. My brother Matt moved in with me on Edwin Drive while he fulfilled his student teaching requirements. He lived in the back bedroom. Off his bedroom was one of only 2 bathrooms in the house, one of the few shortcomings of the place. He taught every day, so he'd come home and sleep while I headed off to wherever the party was that night, and eventually showed up late at night with a gang of people looking to continue the party. I had installed a billiard table and a drum kit in a room abutting Matt's. One night, Lars Ulrich from Metallica came over and went up to the bathroom off my brother's room without realizing Matt was there. Lars came out and sheepishly discovered Matt sitting up in bed, wincing. All he said was, sorry, man. I just took a big... Sometimes my student teacher brother had some fun while the parties raged at my house. Mostly, however, he just dealt with the fallout of my dissolute lifestyle. Sometimes I'd head off in the mornings to keep partying someplace else and leave any half-dressed, passed-out girls in the house for Matt to drive home. At the time, I didn't even realize somebody was driving these girls home. I just knew that they were gone when I came home. Yeah, I wasn't exactly the world's most thoughtful roommate at this stage. There was always a core group of friends around, but the people on the periphery changed all the time. There were hangers-on, interested only because of the notoriety of the band. Those people always change. People started to ask for money now too, not family members. I'd give them anything. All of these other people started asking for loans to start businesses, friends or friends once removed. I'm going to start a record store in Manhattan. Be my backer on this. At first, I would just give money away, feeling my punk rock guilt. One solid group of people I hung out with were the guys in some of the gangsta rap groups of LA. I became friends with Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, and Ice Cube from NWA, as well as people in Ice-T's posse. I had seen the sensationalized reaction Guns N' Roses got by presenting an unedited look at our lives on Appetite for Destruction. And white boys in Hollywood weren't exactly a marginalized group. The glimpse of street life presented by NWA and some of the other new hip-hop acts from Black Los Angeles was a true shock to the system. These guys lived hard too, and we had some great parties up at my house. I did still have some level of self-awareness. I must have harbored an inkling that I was in the process of jumping the rails. That summer, I bought a small vacation place in Lake Arrowhead, California, to get out of Los Angeles. I hoped periodically to escape my bad drink and drug habits and to retreat from the fishbowl effect of living a highly public life in the city. Lake Arrowhead turned out not to be the ascetic wilderness retreat I had envisioned. Little did I know that Tommy Lee of Motley Crue also had a place up there. Bikers ruled the whole area. The sleazy juke joint used for the Patrick Swayze movie Roadhouse was the local bar. Instead of drying out on my trips to the lake, I used its remoteness as an excuse to act more extreme. I invited my dealers, Mike, Josh, and Yvette, to come up with me for weekends. I bought a boat for water skiing. Parts and services for it provided a new source of fake receipts. Musician friends made road trips up to Lake Arrowhead too. People like Lenny Kravitz and Ernie C., the guitar player from Body Count. The house quickly became an even more debauched party scene than my place above Dead Man's Curve. Back in LA one day, Ernie C. told me he was scared for me after seeing my intake up at the lake. Sure, I could scare the out of most people who partied with me, but for the second time in my life, I realized that nobody, not even me at that time, could hang with the dudes in Motley Crue. Within 2 months of buying the house at Lake Arrowhead, I was throwing up blood at Tommy Lee's cabin. Back in LA, Chloe broke through the fence around my yard and got pregnant. I had never had her spayed, just couldn't bring myself to have a vet do anything to her that would cause her pain. She had a huge litter of 14 puppies. Lucky for me, my brother Matt was doing his student teaching in a large school in a very affluent part of the city, and he helped me out by asking there if any kids wanted puppies. We found nice homes for all of them. Chloe was different after that. She transformed from a lively young lass into a portly grandma almost overnight. Now, instead of lunging headfirst into the pool, she would just walk to the first step and wade there all day long, coming out only for meals and naps. She became a world-class napper after that. I could have stood to sleep more myself. When I just drank and went to sleep at night, things went fine. Bad decisions would be confined to that one day or night. I might do something stupid, like hit golf balls through my picture window. I would never crash a car or stick a needle in my arm, or so I thought. But as I continued doing more and more coke, so I could stay up longer and drink more, it began to change my thought process. Late one night, I heard someone on the doorstep of the Edwin Drive house fumbling with keys. Cowering behind the door in my bathrobe, I tried to figure out what to do. My mind raced immediately to a dark, paranoid place. I ran and grabbed my 12 gauge and threw open the door. The double barrels of the shotgun shoved in the face of the intruder. Only, it was my brother Matt, who was trying to find the right key on his chain, his eyes now gleaming with fear. Cursing once, I lowered the shotgun and retreated backward into the foyer. Well, that's the end of Chapter 23. Let me know what you thought of Chapter 23 in the comments below. That does it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. I really appreciate the support. I'll see you next time. Till then, rock on.